Hi, everybody. Meteorologist Joe Chaffee on this Saturday. A lot going on today. We have a major spring storm developing in the southern plains, and the Storm Prediction Center has a very large area of severe thunderstorm risk from the marginal risk that extends into parts of the mid-Atlantic states. And then you have this slight risk that goes into the Ohio Valley, and then it increases to enhanced risk, southern Missouri on through Arkansas. Most of eastern Texas, except near the coast, they're under a slight risk. I'm just looking at this enhanced risk area now, and into northwestern Louisiana. So it's a pretty widespread severe weather event that we're going to see play out today. Now, also because of the fact that this has been going on in terms of rainfall, at the moment, the emphasis, this is at just a little bit before 1 p.m. Eastern time, numerous flood watches are up over a large number of states, and in the dark red areas already have flash flood warnings that have been posted for northeastern Oklahoma into southern Missouri because the rains over the last several days there have been especially heavy. And then in addition to that, we have winter weather advisories up for North Texas. The northwestern corner is under a winter storm warning. The northeastern quarter of New Mexico under a winter storm warning. The southeastern quarter of Colorado also under a winter storm warning into western Nebraska. Denver was in a winter storm warning earlier, but that has now been resolved, and they're out of it and they're done from that respect. And we have various red flag warnings up over parts of the southwest for the risk for fire. California is on the dry side. Looks like there might be some high wind issues in some of the mountains in Southern California, but for the most part, the weather in the west is pretty quiet. Here's the radar view from early afternoon. You can see this arc of heavy rain and embedded thunderstorms, and now a bit of a line of strong thunderstorms starting to form in southwestern Missouri back through Oklahoma. That would be in the enhanced area, and also getting some strong cells developing in along the Louisiana-Texas border about halfway up. So we're probably going to see all of this blossom out before too long. And then we go where it's snow through the Colorado mountains, and of course we've got snow into western Nebraska. There's snow and rain as you get down into New Mexico, and then out in the west, really not too much happening there at all. Radars are pretty quiet, except for right maybe into Puget Sound. You're getting into some precipitation. Satellite view, you can see the clouds extends from this storm on east, and the band narrows. The northeast breaking out into some sunshine and very warm temperatures as we climb up into the 80s in many locations, especially for southern areas of the Northeast, southern New England on south and west through New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania. We had a pretty good thunderstorm blow through overnight, and you can see it right there on the satellite from earlier, and that came through about 5, 6, 7 a.m., and then out it went, and once that was done, there was nothing left behind it, so we were able to at least break out into some sunshine. But we are going to run into some problems. If you see how the cloud rotation is in southeastern Canada, there's a push of cool air that's going to be settling in here for Sunday as the wind goes onshore. Onshore meaning off the ocean, and with ocean water temperatures between 45 and 50, you know where we're going temperature-wise for tomorrow. In the west, the back edge of this major spring storm, you can see the upper air storm system that's driving all this as it rotates across parts of southern Colorado. We've got some moisture coming into the Pacific Northwest, but otherwise the west is in pretty good shape here. And now we're going to look at, I'm going to do the upper air first today, because we are going into this blocking pattern, and we're going to start it off from late this afternoon. You've got this ridge in the east, and even though the ridge is building, there's room at the bottom, low levels of the atmosphere with what's going on to bring in a very shallow layer of cool air. Sometimes these, the upper pattern can be a little deceptive in terms of what is actually happening at the surface in some places, but just to the south of southern New Jersey, northern Delaware, and Maryland, it's going to be very warm again tomorrow. And here's that big spring storm as the upper air feature heads up into Iowa tomorrow and then into the Great Lakes on Monday. This is going to push a cold front through on Monday night into the eastern part of the United States with some showers and some thunderstorms. And meanwhile, in the west, we're starting to see a ridge build, and also, as we've been telegraphing for days, this big blocking high that develops over Greenland. Now, I want to address again the fact that there are a number of you who follow weather who automatically equate a blocking situation with a storm for your particular area, and that's just not the case. From the standpoint of the value of blocking, I've often said that it's overstated to a large degree. But what the important factor is about what blocking does when you have a blocking high like this, and it's this strong, is that it displaces the jet stream far to the south, and that brings down cooler air from Canada into the United States. That is the main takeaway from when you have blocking. And the cooler air tends to come more from the northeastern part of Canada and not so much from the western part of Canada, like you get sometimes with these Arctic blasts that come down in the wintertime that make their way down through the Pacific, through northwestern Canada, and eventually get into the plains and Great Lakes. This is a bit different. And yeah, sometimes if the setup is right, you could wind up with a big storm event, but many times it's not. And one of the things that the model's doing today that needs to be noticed is that with respect to the next trough toward the end of this week, it's a bit different in how it evolves. It actually, the block is so strong right up here. You can see how strong it is. We're at a week from today. This big blocking high is so strong that it really forces everything to get displaced so far south. The main energy with this next system that's coming out from the southwest that's going to be impacting the mid-Atlantic and northeastern Ohio Valley with rain later this week, much of that energy gets suppressed and left behind rather than having it kind of phase together, which is what models were doing in previous runs. The entire northern part of this jet stream stays separate from the south, so the south kind of gets left behind. So the north is doing its own thing here. Here's all that southern energy, and now as we move through time, there's really nothing that's going to be able to bring that main area of energy up the East Coast. There will be a shot of energy that comes out, kind of pick it out here, but most of this is going to get left behind. So I'm thinking, what I'm seeing here it would imply that we would get some rain here later Thursday and Friday, and then it'll just be cool after that, but mainly dry for the weekend. But we got to watch this because there's nothing that says that the model is going to be correct at this point. We're going to have to see a few runs of this. And in the meantime, we've got energy piling on here in the west. We've got a pretty vigorous system dropping southward just offshore Southern California. So there's suddenly a trough along the west coast next weekend. You still have this cooler flow, let's call it a cooler flow, thanks to that blocking high in Greenland, this cooler flow that comes in to southeastern Canada and into the northeastern part of the United States and bleeds down further south than that. It probably bleeds down all the way down to the southern mid-Atlantic states, the way this upper air profile is shaping up. And over time, you still have above normal pressures across the North Atlantic and the polar regions, so that's going to at least continue to favor troughs in the east and more ridging in the west. I have to say, this is a pretty active looking jet stream pattern for the first half of the month of May. Usually you start to see the jet begin to pull up northward, but it's actually pretty far to the south for this time of year. So we'll look at what this all means at the surface. We'll first look at the eastern part of the United States, and then we'll look at the west. And put the moisture on there. And we'll back it up to the beginning. Okay, so here's what's going on right now with all this, that severe weather that's going to be breaking out tonight into Sunday, and then another round of severe weather for the lower Mississippi Valley and central part of the Gulf. The low moves out into Kansas, you can see there's pockets of snow in parts of Nebraska and into eastern South Dakota and Minnesota as the low moves up into western Wisconsin. Here's the trailing cold front. Now, if there's enough support here with the upper air, maybe there'll be a decent line of showers and storms here Monday night as they move through the northeast, and the rest of the area starts to cool out. Areas to the west start to cool down underneath that low that eventually just pulls away. Now, here's the low that the energy that comes out, this lead piece of energy right here comes out and brings rain Thursday night into Friday for the northeast. But here's that second area of energy that gets left behind in the south. And again, with no mechanism to lift it up, much of that rain might spread into the mid-Atlantic states, West Virginia, southern Ohio, and it just kind of keeps it there. This big high coming down from the north with some very cool air. That's cold air up in Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. This high is going to be pushing down, so it's going to try to suppress all this. Again, assuming that that's the idea of the energy being left behind is correct, and indeed that high just kind of suppresses everything to the south as weather systems begin to move along once we get past day 10 and 11. Now, out in the west, we'll take an adventure here to see what's going on in the western U.S., and let's roll it away. All right, so here's our storm at the moment as it pulls out. So the snows will be ending across the central and southern Rockies tonight, and then ending Sunday afternoon across Nebraska and Kansas, and then that pulls away. Meanwhile, we've got some scattered precip up in the northern Rockies with a little system that goes by. No major storms here. Along about Tuesday, something drops down the Rockies and brings some rain and snow again, and now we start to organize that next low coming out of Texas that's going to impact the east. But again, it looks like in the west, through much of next week, the weather doesn't look all that active. Pacific Northwest gets a little bit of precip there going into next weekend. And then we have this system that's going to be dropping down off Southern California. You can see it here. And the model starts to generate some rain showers up in central and Southern California. And then you've got some rain up the Rockies from New Mexico all the way up into Montana early next week. And then that upper low just kind of sits there. This actually might bring some rains to the southwest, which has been especially dry. And you see it here. It stays there through much of that second week, because now we're into May 11th and 12th. So the main threat right now, of course, is the severe weather that we are dealing with today, for the rest of today and tonight. I'll show you what let's go to tomorrow so we can take a look at what the threat level is for Sunday. And you can see there's a slight risk of severe across much of the central Gulf states, moving into the eastern Gulf states on up into the Tennessee and Ohio Valley. Pockets of marginal risk, even a pocket of marginal risk in the western half of Pennsylvania. And we'll go to Monday and see what Monday has in store. And the Storm Prediction Center has a marginal risk with the cold front from western New York State, most of Pennsylvania except the east. Marginal extends down into Georgia, surrounded either side by a general risk of thunderstorms. All right, so let's call it a day. I hope you have a great weekend. Latest posts on meteorologistjoechaffe.com. Angry Ben has got New York City covered on nycweathernow.com. And you can catch all my latest Facebook posts on my Facebook page, Meteorologist Joe Ciaffe. So if you haven't gone there yet, please go to my Facebook page and hit the like button and just enjoy. It's all mostly weather. Every once in a while I do put up a few other things of interest that I think are interesting, but for the most part it's a weather focused page. Okay, everybody have a great rest of your Saturday and a good Sunday, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.